Hi, everyone. My name is Morgan Harrison. I'm sure we've all been in the middle of a conversation and noticed that the person we're talking to is either on the phone or not paying attention at all. I'll be touching base on adolescents and their use of social media, social networking, and social relationships. So let's delve into this social media. Social media is a very broad concept and it's mainly used on computers, tablets, and personal devices, in which most adolescents have. But how do adolescents form relationships through social media? Are the relationships positive or are they negative? Growing up wired is definitely a thing of the 21st century. With this age being so technologically savvy, it's almost like a norm. As most adolescents grow and mature, they are starting to form their identities. But is social media forming their identities for them indirectly? So, with the introduction of technology in society, social media and its use is on an all time rise. The most popular social media platforms for adolescents is Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, and Twitter. But we'll get into those later. But for now, let's get into the theories and social. Social media has become a normal line of communication between adolescents. This brings me to my first theory, which is the stimulation hypothesis. This concept describes how adolescents have an easier time opening up online than they would face to face. The online format is less intimidating and they can share more freely. There's another concept called the rich get richer hypothesis, which is basically the highly sociable teenagers. They're more famous and they may hold a social networking friendship but tend to have poor communication skills, and it's hard for them to form actual face to face relationships. But what constitutes as a good relationship? Forming good, meaningful relationships as teenagers is important, and social networking can be a positive way to form these relationships in the correct platform. But as long as these relationships aren't only through social media, but also have a normal face to face interaction, and they bring about a positive outlook, then the relationship formed is good. As most things, there's a negative side to social networking, and these negative effects can be displayed through the physical and cognitive development of an adolescent. Anxiety can be formed from social networking, such as feeling of missing out or being left out. These feelings can lead to a teenager having a lower self esteem. Let's look into the various social networking sites and see how. Facebook is at the top. It's a domain where teenagers can set up a profile, add friends and family, and communicate openly with people. Older adolescents tend to use this platform more, on which Facebook you can maintain existing friendships, which is important. But let's move on to the next popular site. Instagram, or Insta as the adolescents call it, is a social networking site where you can upload photos with or without a caption, almost like a photo blog. But unlike Facebook friends, on Instagram you have followers that can view your photos, like your photos, and comment on your photos as well. This platform is extremely popular between high school and college students. Now, Twitter was huge when I was in high school, and this site is practically microblogging, which is a short burst of communication in which it allows information to be spread worldwide. Just like Instagram, you have followers in which you can communicate with. Your tweets can be shared multiple times by your followers and their followers if your account isn't private. Snapchat is by far one of the most popular social networking sites for teenagers. A snap can be a video or a picture sent to your Snapchat friends that once viewed disappears after opening. You can add pictures and videos to your Snapchat story and it disappears within 24 hours. But out of these sites, how are adolescents from the ages 11 to 15, adolescents begin to develop the power of thought. And this opens up new cognitive and social pathways for them. Social networking can have a detrimental effect on the cognitive development among adolescents. As Jean Piaget says, adolescents are actively constructing their own cognitive worlds and organizing their experiences, which is sending a message requires much less thought than standing in front of someone and explaining something to them. But could social media and social networking hinder their physical development? Now, social networking gives teenagers the chance to explore, seek friendships, and communicate. There's a downside to the physical development of teenagers due to social networking, and many teens feel more comfortable with virtual friends than with real ones. But not having a normal face to face interaction, teens are missing out on developing critical social. Now, by communicating mostly through a media site, adolescents aren't really learning how to read body language, facial expressions, or vocal inflections, and they may not even be able to formulate a response in real time when interacting with actual people. That's pretty critical. Both physical and cognitive development are not only formed but changed by social media and networking. The relationships formed are easier to communicate through an online platform than face to face because teenagers spend more time looking at a screen than having to verbally communicate with people. I interviewed my younger brother, who is 16, and he stated it's easier to keep your guard up with a text and you can't immediately see how your words are having an effect on someone. So some teens now say that talking over the phone is too intense because it's just simply too. There are so many pros and cons to social networking among teens. To be able to communicate with friends and family is great through social sites, but to not be able to hold a conversation because the face-to-face interaction was never learned due to excessive amount of screen time is a little worrying. Lastly, social networking has both its good and bad side. Depending on the user, it can reap great benefits or just be a waste of time. Maybe the question isn't whether social media is good or bad, but how to keep the lines of dialogue open between teenagers so that they can effectively communicate face to face.